It happened a few weeks ago. It was a Thursday morning, and I had already gotten up, trying to get our two kids ready for school, when the phone rang. Since it was only 7:30, I was surprised at who could be calling. The caller ID showed that it was a number from outside the area, which made me wonder even more. "Hello," I said into the phone. "John, it's me." It was Claire, my wife. I wondered what she needed since we had just talked the night before. My wife works as a representative for a small marketing and printing firm in our medium-sized city and travels a lot. I more or less take care of our kids since I work from home, only occasionally going into our office in the city. Anyway, it works for us, and we both earn good money. We have a nice 4-bedroom house in the suburbs with a pool and a good company of friends. "What happened, Claire?" "I have a problem, honey. Last night, my wallet was stolen when I went down to the hotel lobby for a newspaper. You need to cancel our credit cards and get new ones issued as soon as possible." I spoke with Joy, my boss, and she arranged for a new American Express card to be sent to me this evening, so I can get it tomorrow before I leave. She's also transferring me some cash to get by. "You're usually very careful with your purse. What happened?" "I was a bit careless and put it on the cashier's counter while I went to get some other reading materials, and when I came back, it was gone. The cashier said she was distracted by another customer and didn't notice anything. My driver's license is gone too, but the hotel is sending someone to check the trash bins in the area, and I hope they find it. Otherwise, I'll have to take a taxi to my meeting today." "Okay, I'll take care of the credit cards as quickly as I can." "I'm sorry for being so careless, honey. I hope this won't cost us more than the $200 or so that was in my wallet. The other cards I had can be replaced over time. Most of my makeup was in the room, so I'll be ready for the presentation this morning. How are the kids?" "I miss you guys." This is exactly what happened about 6 weeks ago. I managed to cancel the credit cards before any charges appeared, and they found her wallet with her driver's license and other non-credit cards, so I just forgot about it. Our life went on. Today, I am looking at my wife's account statement. She maintains a separate investment account where, a few years ago, she deposited her inheritance after her parents died in a car accident. I try to respect her privacy regarding this account, but I was looking for our home insurance policy and came across a folder with her monthly account statements. I knew that after her parents' death, the inheritance was around $350,000, and I was curious about the current amount. I was pleased to see that it now exceeds $400,000. As I browsed through the statement, I noticed that about 6 weeks ago, $3,000 was withdrawn from her account, and I wondered what she had spent that money on. My curiosity was piqued, and I delved into the details of her bank account, discovering that she had written a check for that amount to a jewelry store in the city where she had lost her purse just a couple of days after being there. What did she buy at the jewelry store? I wondered. She hadn't bought anything for herself, and I hadn't heard her mention purchasing jewelry for anyone else. She has a brother, but I didn't think he warranted a $3,000 gift. After a few minutes of pondering, I went to the computer, found the jewelry store's website, and wrote down the phone number. Picking up the phone, I dialed the store's number. A woman answered, identifying the store and asking how she could help me. I introduced myself and mentioned the transaction I was interested in, then explained that we had some issues with the purchase and wanted to know if it was covered by the store's warranty. She spent a minute searching for the information on her computer and then asked me, "Do you apparently have an issue with the rings?" Rings? I asked myself, what rings did she buy? I was relieved when the woman on the phone spoke again. "Oh, I remember that purchase. The lady was very upset when she came in and told us that her wedding and engagement rings had been stolen, and she wanted to replace them. It took us quite a while to find 2 rings that suited her. She used a company credit card as a deposit and sent us a check a few days later." "You're saying there are problems with them?" "We provide a 90-day warranty on them." "Is the diamond loose in the setting?" "She replaced the wedding and engagement rings?" I was baffled. She never mentioned losing them, only that her purse was stolen. I needed to think about this more. "Listen," I said to the woman. "I need to talk to my wife about this and call you back. I'll call you later." "Okay, goodbye." She seemed puzzled, but not as puzzled as I was. Obviously, the rings must have been in her purse when it was stolen. Why would they be in her purse unless she didn't want others to know she was married? There were no restrictions on marriage at her work, as far as I knew. However, if she wanted to appear single in a social situation, I reasoned, it could mean she wanted to play the field when away from home. The thought made my stomach churn. We had been married for 11 years, had 2 children, Jeremy, 7, and Melissa, 6, and I thought we had a perfect marriage and family. Our personal life was fine, or so I thought. Why would she seek sex outside our marriage? She usually traveled once a month and stayed for 2 or 3 nights in some remote city, so if she wanted to play, she would feel safe doing it then. Losing the rings must have really scared her, and she decided to replace them with ones as similar to the originals as possible. I bought them when I wasn't earning much, and they weren't fashionable, so getting a good replica wouldn't be very expensive. She could have filed a claim with our insurance company, but I would likely have found out about it. If her purse was indeed stolen at the hotel, she must have reported it. I was curious about what she told them about the loss. I found the hotel's number and called them. I asked if they had a record of my wife's purse being stolen. When they said they had a written report of the incident, I asked if they could fax me a copy. Within a few minutes, I had the copy. The report was written and signed by Claire. In it, she described how her purse was stolen while she was dancing in the lobby. She left her purse in the booth where she was sitting, and when she returned to her seat, it was gone. The hotel noted that Claire did not want to involve the police. My thoughts were scattered by the implications of what I had discovered. She lied to me, concealing the theft of the rings, and lied about them being stolen in a gift shop. There might have been another explanation, but I couldn't imagine any other scenario except for the awful thoughts swirling in my head. I knew I had to find out what the loss of those rings meant, or it would drive me crazy. It was becoming clear that the rings were in her purse while she was dancing with some unknown man. After that, she went on a trip a couple of weeks ago and was supposed to go on another trip in a few days. I needed to get more information about her next trip's itinerary. I wanted to find out what she was doing in the evenings when she was away from home. If she was having intimate relations with other men, the loss of the rings might have been enough to scare her. I knew that if I found out she had been unfaithful, it would probably be the end of our marriage, although I didn't want to think about the impact on the children. She was a great mother, but I couldn't allow her to have custody if we separated, and she continued traveling and sleeping around. My mind was racing, trying to figure out how to find other clues about her fidelity. What else could give me a clue about what she was doing during her trips? Did she sleep with him using protection or not? I would bet that she used protection since she likely wouldn't want to bring anything home or get pregnant. I had a vasectomy after our second child was born, so pregnancy would be an absolute no-no. She couldn't rely on a man to bring condoms, so she must have had her own supply. Where would she keep them? She couldn't store them at home or in the car, so she would have to keep them in her office at work. Most likely, they would be with her when she went on business trips. She always carried her business papers, laptop, and presentation materials in a large briefcase that she kept in her office. However, if she was taking an early morning flight, she would bring the briefcase home the night before and then take it along with her suitcase to the airport. This was the key. I had to find an opportunity to search her briefcase before her departure. I hoped that her next trip would involve an early morning flight. I decided that I had to stay calm to avoid alerting her that something was wrong. I didn't need to worry because, when the kids came home from school, I was too busy to dwell on it, but the possibility that she was cheating on me remained at the back of my mind. When Claire came back from work, I had a small accident while preparing dinner. The dish with beans slipped out of my hands and fell on the floor. I calmly started cleaning up, and with the kids running around, I looked a bit flustered, so I think she didn't notice anything strange about my behavior. Once everything settled down and the mess was cleaned up, I greeted her with a kiss on the cheek as I usually did, and we sat down to eat. During dinner, we usually chatted about our day, so I didn't think it unusual to ask about her upcoming trip. "Are you leaving again in a couple of days?" "Oh yes. It's pretty much the same routine. I'm not looking forward to it." "If you don't like it, why don't you apply for another position? You've been with the company long enough and know it well. You could fit in almost anywhere." "I've thought about it, but I want to work a bit longer before settling at a desk." I decided to prick her conscience a bit. "The kids and I miss you a lot when you're gone." I know, and I'm sorry about that. I miss you too. So, where are you going this time? And are you leaving in the morning so we can meet before you go? I looked at her, mindful that the kids were listening. I felt like I was putting on a good show, pretending that everything was fine, even though it was hard to eat with my stomach in knots. She obviously thought everything was normal because she responded in kind. I wondered if her stomach was troubled, but she seemed to be eating without any issues. Maybe I was wrong about her, but if I could check her briefcase, I would have a more accurate opinion of her fidelity. I'm just going to Denton, so I'm leaving in the morning with a flight at 7:30. I need something to keep me going until I return on Friday. She winked at me. That's good. I winked back, trying to act normal, and she blushed. This meant she would bring the briefcase home the evening before her departure and wouldn't be going to work before heading to the airport. Her casual attitude about her trip in front of our kids and me seemed to indicate she wasn't playing around when she was away, or she was very accustomed to deceiving. I hoped the briefcase would tell the whole story. The evening before her departure, Claire came home in a good mood and, as usual, parked her car next to mine in the garage. She seemed excited about something, and I wondered if she was anticipating sex with me or someone else. She didn't bring the briefcase inside, so I assumed it was in her car. I was working on dinner, and when we sat down to eat, she asked me if I could get her bag from the garage when we finished eating. Of course. Do you have everything you need? Oh yes, it's a regular trip. I have the briefcase in the car ready to go, and I'll just pack my bag with the usual things I need for a couple of nights. Do you have any plans for the time while I'm away? No, the kids and I will just go about our usual routine during the week. Maybe we could do something together as a family over the weekend. Sounds good. I'll look forward to it. After dinner, she helped me clear the table and clean the kitchen, then loaded the dishwasher. Once it was running, she went to the bedroom to pack, and I headed to the garage to get her bag. In the garage, I peeked into her car but didn't see the briefcase and figured it was locked in the trunk. I had anticipated this and thought of a way to get to it later in the evening. Returning to the bedroom with her bag, I asked, "Where are your car keys?" "Your tire is a bit low and probably has a slow leak. If I take it to the gas station, I can't have Jerry fix it right now." She looked puzzled for a moment, then reached for her purse. Handing me the keys, she asked, "Can't you just put on the spare?" "That's only for emergencies. We have time to fix it, so I think that's the best approach," I said to her, heading back to the garage before she had a chance to think it over. Quickly driving her car out of the garage, I headed to the corner gas station owned by my high school buddy Jerry. Pulling into one of his bays, I honked, and he saw me, opened the door, and let me in, closing it behind me. "How's it going?" "I was supposed to be here to fix a tire, but I needed some time to check on something else." "Problems at home, buddy?" "Maybe," I said, opening the trunk and taking out Claire's briefcase. Placing it on the workbench, I used the key on her keyring to open it. "Well, I've got a customer, so have fun," Jerry said, heading back to the small shop he ran alongside his station. I very carefully started searching the briefcase, not wanting to disturb anything unnecessarily. After checking several pockets in the flap, my fingers found a packet, which I pulled out. My heart sank when I saw an open package of condoms. About 3 were missing. My worst suspicions were confirmed. I put the package back, closed, and locked the briefcase. Putting the briefcase back in the trunk, I closed it just as Jerry returned. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "I'm afraid so. Could you let me stay here for a bit? Maybe check the air in her tires so I can tell her I fixed the problem." "Sure, I can do that." He just gave me a sympathetic look but said nothing. He was a true friend. After he checked the tires, I pulled out of the bay, drove up to the gas pumps, and filled the tank. Who knew when I'd get the chance to do that again? I thanked Jerry for his hospitality and headed home. My thoughts were very dark, and I was on the verge of hyperventilating as I drove back into our garage. I felt a mixture of rage and disappointment that she had done this to me, the kids, and our marriage. Then my thoughts began to plan my next step. I needed to get definitive proof of her adulterous, immoral behavior to ensure I would get custody of our children. She was a good mother, and the kids needed her, and I would allow visitation, but my goal was full legal custody. She would have to explain to her brother and friends why we divorced. Entering the house, I called out to the bedroom, all set. It was just a small nail. Okay, thanks. I couldn't look her in the eye just yet, so I went to the kitchen, grabbed a beer, and then headed to the family room where the kids were watching TV. About half an hour later, Claire came into the room and sat next to me on the couch. By then, I had calmed down, though I felt very sad knowing that this once happy family would soon be a thing of the past. Claire scooted closer and snuggled up to me. "Are you ready for tonight, Stallion?" she whispered in my ear. I took a sip of beer before answering. "I think so, but my stomach is still acting up." "Oh, that's too bad, honey," she said, cuddling closer. I automatically put my arm around her shoulders and somehow felt a tenderness toward her. I wondered why she had done this. Was it for excitement, or did she just need more sex than I could give her? Maybe I would never know. All I knew was that my trust in her was gone. We both put the kids to bed, and I watched her as she kissed our two little angels goodnight. When they woke up in the morning, she would already be gone, but they wouldn't worry because she traveled so often. That night, we made love. It wasn't hot, passionate sex, but rather a farewell intimacy. She felt my sadness. "Is your stomach still bothering you, honey?" "Yes, but I'll survive. Do you really need to go on this trip?" I asked, hoping she would prioritize our love and our marriage. Maybe I was hoping that this was all a nightmare and everything would pass if she stayed home with us. "Sorry, honey. It's necessary, and I'll try to get back home as soon as possible. I'm really looking forward to this weekend with you and the kids." "All right, sweetheart," I sighed. "You better get some sleep. You need to get up early to catch your flight." "I'll take a quick shower first, so I don't have to do it in the morning." "Okay." While she was in the shower, I went over and peeked into her bag to see what she had packed. Most of the clothes on top were business attire, but underneath, I found a stash of the sexiest lingerie and a little black cocktail dress that I found incredibly sexy. It looked like she was planning to be a busy girl while she was away. Carefully rearranging the bag as I had found it, I closed the lid and lay down in bed. That night, I didn't sleep very well, and when I heard Claire get up around 5 in the morning, I didn't get out of bed to say goodbye as usual. I knew I felt tired and sad at the same time, and I knew that anger would start building up later. "Still not feeling well, honey?" she asked, kissing me goodbye on the cheek as I lay there. After I heard the garage door close and she drove away, I got up and went to shower. I had a busy day ahead. After getting the kids ready for school and having breakfast, I took out the phone book and browsed the yellow pages for a private investigator, especially one with branches across the country. I called several and found one with a branch in Denton, where Claire was headed, and scheduled a meeting with them for that morning. Next, I found a divorce lawyer whom a friend had used and highly recommended. I called and arranged a meeting with him for the afternoon. When I arrived at the private investigator's office, I arranged for them to monitor Claire in the evenings when she went out and to obtain photos and a report of her activities after her business for the day concluded. I brought a photo of Claire and her itinerary so they could easily find and identify her. They said they would send the information to their Denton office via email and provide me with a report by Monday morning. I told them that was fine and paid a substantial deposit for their services. They warned me that they probably wouldn't be able to get pictures of any sexual acts, but would try to provide as many incriminating photos as possible. I told them that would suffice. The afternoon meeting with the lawyer went as I had hoped. He told me that we were in a no-fault divorce state, but since I was the primary caregiver for our children, I would most likely be granted custody, though I would have to agree to generous visitation for Claire. We would split our assets 50-50ths, with no spousal support since our incomes were roughly equal. If I obtained custody, Claire would have to pay child support. As for the inheritance Claire received, she would keep it, which didn't concern me. Our children were my primary concern. I told him to prepare the papers and serve them after Monday on the grounds of irreconcilable differences, but I asked him to stipulate that Claire would need to move out of our home immediately after being served. The lawyer said that as the custodial parent, I would be within my rights to request that. When the children turned 18, the house would be sold, and we would split the sale proceeds. I left the lawyer's office feeling satisfied that life for me and the children would continue, and that Claire would face the consequences of her infidelity. I didn't take any immediate action with our finances, insurance, or will. I felt there would be time after she was served. With her inheritance, I didn't think she would have to worry about her share of our savings. It was almost time for the kids to get out of school, so I headed home to be there when the bus arrived. When she returned on Friday afternoon, I offered to do the laundry, but she thanked me and said she would handle it later. I just smirked to myself, thinking what a rascal I was for teasing her like that. I knew why she wanted to do her own laundry. The smell of sex on it could have given her away, and she needed to hide her extramarital activities at all costs. That night we had sex again, although my heart wasn't in it. When we finished, she seemed to sense some reluctance on my part. "Is your stomach still bothering you, honey? Maybe you should see a doctor. This has been going on for too long." I thought I was a bit polite when I replied, "I'm going to try a new medicine that a friend told me about, and it should take care of my stomach problems." "Well, I hope so. I want you to get back to work as soon as possible," she said, snuggling up to me to fall asleep. God, how I will miss her. On Monday, after the kids left for school and Claire went to work, I got a call from the private investigator's office saying they had a report ready for me. I said I would come right over, and half an hour later, I was sitting with the office manager. He told me that the report had been faxed that morning from Denton, along with several photographs. He said he hadn't had time to read it fully, but from what he gathered by skimming through it and looking at the photos, it seemed terrible. I took a copy of the report from him and began reading. Subject: Claire Barton. I began surveillance of the subject at 5:17 p.m. on Wednesday, June 16th, in the hotel lobby. Identification was confirmed using the photograph provided by the Merrickville office and the company name badge on the subject. The subject was carrying a briefcase and entered the elevator. My assistant rode up with her in the elevator and confirmed that she entered her room, 414, at 5:23 p.m. The subject was alone. A photograph of the subject entering her room, dressed in business attire, is presented as Exhibit 1A. I looked at Photo 1A and saw that she was wearing her business clothes. It was clear that she was wearing her rings. The photo must have been taken with a mobile phone. The partner remained in the room across the hall from the subject. At 6:31 p.m., the partner notified me that the subject had left her room and was in the elevator. At 6:32 p.m., the subject exited the elevator into the lobby. She was dressed as shown in Exhibit 1B. In the photograph in Exhibit 1B, Claire was in her little black cocktail dress, high heels, and the necklace I gave her for our 10th anniversary, looking like a promiscuous woman. The photo had enough detail to show that she was not wearing her wedding rings on her left hand. The subject entered the dining area and had a light dinner with a glass of wine. At 7:13 p.m., the subject left the dining area and entered the adjacent hall, where she took a seat at the bar and ordered a glass of wine. At 7:17 p.m., a lone man approached the subject, and they conversed for several minutes. See Exhibit 1C. In the photograph in Exhibit 1C, a tall, handsome man is shown talking to Claire at the bar. After a few minutes of conversation, the subject nodded and followed the man to a booth near the dance floor. The subject spent 1 hour and 43 minutes with the man in the booth. She danced with the man 6 times and had intimate contact. See Exhibit 1D. In the photograph presented as Exhibit 1D, Claire and the man from Exhibit 1C are sitting in the booth in a close embrace and kissing. Her short dress was hiked up to her thighs, and his hand was under it. At 8:51 p.m., the subject and the man left the lounge, took the elevator to the subject's floor, and entered her room, 414. See Exhibit 1E. Exhibit 1E shows Claire and the man from the lounge entering her room. She looked slightly intoxicated but very happy. At 11:13 p.m., the man left the subject's room and exited the building. The man's car number, MBS 2895, registered to Alexander B. Tate, 1424, Azalea Drive, Denton. The man is married and has 2 young children. I skimmed through the rest of the report, which indicated that she repeated her actions the following evening with another man. It was signed by the investigator in Denton. My wife was promiscuous whenever she left home. I couldn't reconcile with what she was doing. Even losing the rings didn't scare her enough to stop. After paying the private investigator the remaining balance, I thanked him and left. I took 2 additional copies of the report, all on a CD, and drove straight home. At home, I immediately called the divorce lawyer and asked about the status of the divorce proceedings. He told me they were ready to file the documents, and I asked him to proceed and inquired if he could serve them to her publicly at her workplace the next day. He said that wouldn't be a problem, and I gave him her work address. I wanted to hurt and humiliate her, and serving the papers at work seemed like it would be a fitting revenge for what she had done. That night, we didn't have sex. I think she knew something was wrong and perhaps sensed that I knew something, but she was afraid to voice her concerns, only saying that she hoped I would feel better soon. Strangely, she seemed a bit reserved herself, but I let it pass without comment. In the morning, I got up early, as I hadn't slept well during the night. I worked on the computer until I heard the kids stirring, then went to start breakfast. After breakfast, I saw her off to work. She came over to hug and kiss me before leaving. I gave her a brief hug before ushering her out the door. I think she understood everything at that moment. There were tears in her eyes as I closed the door behind her, and she whispered, "I love you." When she left, I felt an overwhelming sadness and wanted to cry myself, but I had to get the kids organized for the school bus. The call came around 10:45. The caller ID showed it was Claire's workplace, and I picked up the phone without answering the call. There was a moment of silence as the caller realized I wasn't going to speak. "I'm so sorry," her voice whispered, and then the line went dead, and I hung up the phone. That evening, she didn't come home, and I wondered if she was playing her little sick game, no longer caring about her husband. I knew I had been harsh with her, but I retained some justified anger. The kids asked where their mom was, but I took them to Mickey D's for dinner, and by the time we got home, they were very tired and ready for bed. The next morning, she called. "Honey, can I come home, get my things, and talk?" I felt a pang of guilt, but it quickly passed. "Why don't you come between 9 o'clock and noon? The kids and I won't be here then. As for talking, I'll speak with you one-on-one in my lawyer's office once you've signed, notarized, and returned the divorce papers. Then I'll listen to whatever you have to say." A sob, then, "Okay," and the phone disconnected again. P.S. She signed the papers, and 6 months later, we were officially divorced. She was pregnant but had an abortion before the divorce was finalized. When she slept with her last lover, the condom broke, and it was close to her fertile period. So, even though I discovered her infidelity because she lost her rings, she would have likely been caught anyway. I heard that she has returned to the dating scene as well. I think if she gets close to marriage again, I'll warn her future husband about her fidelity. There's no point in her betraying 2 of us. We had the meeting, as I told her, in my lawyer's office. She asked me to reconsider the divorce. Not having unlimited access to our children was hard for her, but I told her that I simply couldn't trust her anymore. She explained that she had been seeing a psychologist who diagnosed her with a form of nymphomania and that she had received help to manage her addiction. Now she controls her urges. I told her that wasn't enough for me if she still had those urges, and if she had sought help at the beginning, she wouldn't be in this position now. I left her crying in the lawyer's office. I am dating again, and I think I've found a woman I like and could easily fall in love with. She is my age and divorced. She caught her husband cheating and didn't tolerate it. My kind of woman. A big plus is that the kids like her too. I suppose it's only a matter of time before I pop the question,